Hey guys, it's just me, Lance again. Here's my video in response to Pastor Paul. So Pastor Paul was remanded into custody for deliberately breaching his bail conditions in utter contempt for the court, which left the court no choice but to remand him into custody. Right? You can imagine if they didn't remand him, it would have made a mockery of the court system itself. So sometimes you can breach bail and there might be some mitigating circumstances, but not in this case. For instance, like I'll give you an example. Like say if you're on bail and you had a 7 p.m. curfew, right? And you had to drive your mum who was sick, you had to drive her to hospital, say, 8 o'clock at night. That would be mitigating circumstances the court would take into account for breaching your bail. But in this case with Pastor Paul, he's deliberately, consciously, publicly breached his bail conditions in utter contempt for the court. So they had no choice but to lock him up. So don't listen to the online influencers who want to tell you some sort of conspiracy and they're picking on a priest who was just trying to run a church service. So why didn't he run his church service on Zoom like all the other churches? Why haven't any other pastors opened their churches in defiance of the law? It's only Pastor Paul, right? And if you look into Pastor Paul, you see he's linked up with a lot of scamming organisations like Reignite, Rebel News from Canada. Now, in regards to Rebel News from Canada, I had a look into it and they raised the money for his legal fees. Now, the difference between me and you guys on the internet is I know what legal fees cost. You guys don't. So you guys donate to these causes not realising that it's a scam. So, last time I checked, they've got 2,966 donors. Now, let's be conservative and say that each person gave $10, right? Some would have given 50, 100, whatever, but let's say it's 10. Say if all those people gave $10, that's $29,000 in legal fees. Now, a magistrate's court bail application would cost $2 or $3 grand at the most. Unless you had fucking QC, then it might be 10 grand, right? Which is pretty far off $29,000. So what happens to the rest of the money? Where does that go? So you guys starting to see a pattern here? Most of the people crowdfunding for legal fees, they pocket most of the money, right? It's a big fat scam. That's why I've been trying to tell you for a year. So maybe some people finally wake up. These people crowdfunding for legal fees, the legal fees go into their pocket. You got to go and do some research and find out what the legal fees would have been. So shame on you. Shame on you to this priest, Pastor Paul. Shame on you for getting into bed with a known organised crime syndicate, Rebel News. Pay your own fucking legal fees. I'm sure you could afford a couple of grand for a bail app. I mean, your wife put the 15K up for the surety. Why didn't you pay your legal fees? No, instead you want to get involved with these scamming organisations, Reignite Democracy and Rebel News Australia to crowdfund for your legal fees when you're the one who broke the law. You're the one that broke the law in the first place on purpose, deliberately, knowing this would happen and get you more attention. And then you want people to pay your legal fees when you deliberately break the law. So that's my 2 cents on it. Please share this around. Get the word out that Pastor Paul is nothing but a scamming, lying rat. All right, see you guys.